This is Jason Collington, editor of the Tulsa World. I'm here on the Tulsa World Newsroom podcast, talking to Randy Krehbiel, our veteran political reporter, who's been writing about senators and Congress for a long time. And we had some news yesterday break that Senator Inhofe has some plans on possibly what he's going to be doing in his near political future. Randy, what did we learn yesterday, and what did you find out in your reporting?
Well, it appears that sometime in the next few days that Senator Inhofe is going to be making an announcement. And we think he's going to announce that he will be retiring at the end of the current Congress, which means next January. So, so it appears that he will be in office for a while, but it will allow the various candidates to get lined up, and there'll be a special election this year that will be concurrent with the regular election calendar.
And that special election will happen in November, right?
Well, it'll follow the usual calendar. In other words, we'll have primaries in June, we'll have runoffs in August if necessary, and then it would be with the general election in November, providing that there's other candidates besides Republicans.
What I try to do in this podcast is talk to the reporters and photographers and the staff here at the Tulsa World to kind of get some stories behind the story. With this one, Randy, can take me back. When was the first time you met Inhofe? Because again, he's kind of a unique senator because, my gosh, he used to be the mayor of Tulsa.
Well, if you go back further than that, he was a state representative, and actually the first election I voted in, the first general election I voted in, he was on the ballot. He was he was running for governor of Oklahoma against David Boren, and that's
what year was that? What year was that?
1974.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
so your first ballot, our veteran political reporter, the first ballot that you vote on, he's on there. My goodness.
Yeah, right. And he'd been in the legislature for, I guess, 8 years before that.
Give me you've probably interviewed him more than any other reporter here in Oklahoma. Give people an idea of who he was, what he was like, and what your experience has been with him.
Yeah, well, and of course he still is around. So and I can't remember the first time I met him or anything like that, but I've talked to him a lot over the years, and I think what people see is pretty much what he is. I mean, you pretty well know where you are. He's very frank for the most part, for somebody in that position, and he's a pretty tough guy. And early in his career, he was known as a really tough campaigner. People did not like to run against him, which is one reason probably that he hasn't really been seriously challenged in quite some time.
Correct. Yeah. A long time.
I started he's been in 51 elections since 1966. He's won 48 of them.
Wow. Okay.
And I don't remember how many people he's defeated over the years. A lot of them are not that well known, but some of them are. And so he's a very durable guy. And I think, like I said, people know who he is, and he's always been, whether you like him or not, and a lot of people don't like him, but whether you like him or not, he's a really important figure, I think, in the history of the state. And there are a lot of things that probably wouldn't have happened without Jim Inhofe, or some things that some people didn't want to happen, didn't happen because of Jim Inhofe.
Well, what kind of mayor was he like?
My recollection is that he was, it's interesting, he had the reputation for being really more of a progressive mayor. He's always been very big on infrastructure, and he believed that you should have good streets and roads and airports and that sort of thing. So he was the guy that, as mayor, he pushed through the third penny sales tax. that funds a lot of our streets and roads. He was also, I think, probably the first mayor to really push development of the Arkansas River. He was responsible for the low water dam. He could be kind of gruff at times, I think, with people, but there's one, but he would not, so people knew where he lived and everything. At one point, people came and dumped garbage on his lawn.
Oh, geez.
Because there was some kind of problem with the garbage collection, and they come and dump garbage on his lawn. And he's always said that mayor was the hardest job he had.
Wow. Wow. One of the things too, I think, I remember one time, one of my first assignments at the Associated Press was to get in the back of a car with him while he was traveling between events and to get a couple quotes for our national desk on a certain topic. And so here, this young, my first job out of college, I jump in the back of this car. I asked him some questions, get the quotes and everything. And then I was dropped off before the car continued. And he said, did you get everything written down? Because you were writing pretty fast. Did you get everything written down? And I said, yeah, I think I got it. He's like, well, if something's wrong, just call me or call someone that was in that car. We'll get you what you need. And it was nice that he let a rookie kid talk to him for a little bit when he obviously was a senator then and a big deal. So I always think about that day of, the 30 minutes in the car, him just answering every question, just like I was any other reporter. And it seemed like he always had a good relationship with us, Randy. Of course, with you had the most popular story, not only on TulsaWorld.com last year, but one of the top stories in all of Lee Enterprises. That's all of our 77 newspapers. When you got an interview with Inhofe right after the January 6th riot, he picked up the phone when you called and was able to give you some information. Tell that story real quick of how that happened.
Oh, well, I just was trying to call people, and as I recall, I sent a text to maybe his communications director and said, is Senator Inhofe okay? Would he want to talk to us? And he, right away he got on the phone and talked to me, and he was pretty frank about what happened. This is really a bad deal. It seemed to me like it seems to me that Senator Inhofe, he likes to talk to reporters who are engaged in whatever it is he's doing.
Yes.
If you act like you're interested in what he's doing, or if you are interested in what he's doing, then he'll talk at some length. And he'll also tell you if he doesn't really know. He has certain areas that he concentrates on.
Yeah.
If you were to ask him a question about, I don't know, childcare or something, he'd just tell you, I don't know. So, you kind of learn, okay, he's going to know about defense and he's going to know about infrastructure. And he is, he's 87 years old, and he still, if you ask him about, some kind of weapon system or something to do with highways or airports, he knows it all. Yeah. And so these are the things. He's a very basic lawmaker. He's a real meat and potatoes guy as far as, again, highways, airports, infrastructure, military. That's
well. And one of the things that we do here that a lot of people don't know is we have an editorial board, and the editor and other senior editors are on it. And we invite newsmakers, public officials to come meet with the board and have a, on the record discussion. You've been in a lot of those ed board meetings for a lot of years. And when Senator Inhofe would come, he sometimes would come with a sheet of paper with bullet points on certain topics, front and back. And those ed board meetings, he would sit there and go through it and let us ask questions and really have a discussion. But I mean, he didn't just come in to say, hey, what's going on? I mean, he came in with an agenda, with, this is what you as the Tulsa World editorial board, this is what you guys need to know. This is what's really going on.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, other politicians that have come in kind of see this as a, hey, you know, what's on your mind? But he definitely came in with, hey, these are some really important things that you don't know about, that you may not be reading about yet, but these are things that I'm working on. And again, that's impressive when you know that a serious guy is taking a serious job seriously. And I certainly got that impression every time we had an ed board meeting with him.
He's very organized in the sense that you mentioned. He always has it. In fact, he also has cards with those talking points on them, and he will pull those out and start going over it and make sure they get passed around so everybody knows what he's talking about. And he like a lot of politicians who've been around a long time, he uses the media to get his message out, and not just sort of a beating you over the head type message, Republicans good, Democrats bad, but things that he's working on that are important to him, like the levees in Tulsa County, or highway project, or or the military bases. We tend to not write as much about the military bases here in Tulsa because we don't have any, but if you're in Oklahoma City or Lawton or Enid or Altus, Jim Inhofe is the guy that's kept your military base not only operating, but in many cases expanding its mission to ensure its longevity. And that's very important to those people.
And many other states have lost their bases, there's always that list that comes out, and it seems like that he's been able, again, a team effort of trying to keep those bases here, and like you said, expanded. Tinker has grown a whole lot in my career since it's been there, and he's been there for a lot of that. When you heard the news, and we're reporting the news yesterday, Randy, what kind of memories were coming into your mind of just really how important he was in the pantheon of Oklahoma politicians? What kind of things did you think of when you heard that this was going on?
I think it's really hard to compare a contemporary to people from the past. And, it's just that he's been such a constant. And I'm 65 years old, and he's been in public office virtually my entire life.
Yeah.
So, and so you can't help but have some influence. And of course, as we laid out here, he's had a huge influence on Tulsa and on the state as a whole. And he's, because of that seniority, he has had a lot of ability to get things done.
Yeah.
I know people get excited about term limits and things like that, and I understand that. But there's also something to be said for having people who've been there a while, and who understands how things work, and understands government, knows people, all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it can be, for instance, the last thing I went to that involved him was a press conference here in Tulsa, but it was with the mayor of Enid and the Corps of Engineers, and it was over a deal that Inhofe worked out where Enid could get water from Call Lake, and it was going to save him $8 million a year. Well, in the big scheme of things, $8 million a year may not sound like a whole lot, but to a town the size of Enid, that's a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
And so there are little things like that are multiplied all over the state.
Yeah.
And then there are, and then there are the big things that we've discussed. I mean, he's been involved in, well, I mentioned some of the things that happened while he was mayor. He's been involved in keeping the Arkansas River Navigation Channel operational.
Mhm.
He's been involved in improvements for airports all over the state. He's been involved in improvements for highways all over the state. And I know there are a lot of, there are criticisms of him, and a lot of them are valid, I would say, or at the very least arguable. And sometimes people are important for the things that don't happen while
Right.
they're
Right.
in office. I mean, good things and bad things.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, of course, this story broke yesterday, and before I asked late for you to throw out some candidates. We are going to make a gallery and put that on TulsaWorld.com today of some of the people that you think might be running for this spot. Because again, there's probably 6 or 7, I think, that you sent us, and of people who might fill in this role, people who have been talked about, people who've already said they would. And so that's the story that you'll see on TulsaWorld.com today. We'll put a link at the bottom of the description here on the podcast so you can see that as well. Randy, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for all you do. Again, this is the Tulsa World Newsroom podcast. We're on Apple, Google, and Spotify, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
For more information, you can visit tulsaworld.com.